On today's episode, I'm going to talk about that time I saw a big triangle-shaped anti-gravity UFO. All right, here comes the story. And I want to reiterate, because I never know who's going to find this stuff. I just want to be truthful and authentic and tell my story. I'm going to tell as many details as I remember, even though it's been a while ago now. And the reason I want to tell details is because somebody out there knows what these things are and where they're coming from. And they can use probably details to tell if I'm just making this up or not. Okay, so let me think about how many years ago this was. I just finished working for one company, 2006. It had to be somewhere around 2008. Which would make it like 14-ish years ago. I think it was during the winter or something like that. Anyways, in Edmonton, Alberta. Okay. And I was dating a girl at the time, and I'm not going to say who she was because I don't think she was too keen on what she's seen. She wasn't keen on what she's seen. And there had to be like 2 o'clock in the morning or something like that. And where this girl lived was like roughly, I think, a 5 or 15 minute walk from the West Edmonton Mall. So south of the West Edmonton Mall, just a little bit. And it's off a big main road and then a lesser main road and then in a bit of a cul-de-sac there. So it's sort of like a half horseshoe shape with homes curving around on both sides. And their home was, when you went in and kind of on the right side, second or third home in on that side. And I was standing by my car. I was leaning against my car, talking to her, basically saying bye before I hopped in my car and drove home to Red Deer at the time. And we're there. And as we're talking, appearing over the rooftops of the homes, moving very slowly, were these big, what looked like, and just to add this, I'm going to be real careful to describe what I saw and experienced and not what I think it may or may not be, because I haven't got a clue. I haven't got a clue, honestly. And yes, this is a true story, and you can take it and make of this story whatever you want. You can say, maybe the guy dreamed it or imagined it, whatever you want. But I was wide awake. I wasn't on any drugs at the time. In fact, I think I was still part of the church at the time. So at that time in my life, I believed in the healing power of Jesus. So you can imagine my surprise when, from my perspective, the Lord descended on me in the shape of a triangle. Not exactly, but anyways, I'm there talking to this girl. And over the top of the buildings are these triangles that slowly begin to appear. They were maybe 6 or 10 feet above the peaks of these 2-story houses. And the speed they were moving was so slow. If you had 2 or 3 levels of scaffolding set up like a walkway and you were up right beside them, it would be like a super slow walking speed. Like they were going a third the speed of like a person's walking speed on a path. And they had to be like maybe 25 feet long ish from the tip to the back edge. And there was 3 of them in like a bit of a triangle shaped formation. And they looked like these giant metallic metal triangles. And they were completely anti-gravity, like just levitating and barely moving. And we watched them for probably roughly 2 minutes while they slowly came over the buildings and into our field of view. And I think I just said to her, like, what's that? And we just stood there in complete silence watching these things for, about 2 minutes until they eventually had moved far enough that they kind of disappeared entirely over the next row of houses, just over top of where we could see. They were gone. Now, I remember on the bottom surfaces of these triangles, there is a larger round circular shape in the middle, and there was a smaller, like, circular shape on the bottom surface of each corner, each of the three corners. The smaller three circles were each like maybe 20% the size of the inner circle. And I can't remember if the inner circle was sort of domed shaped much or not. It's hard to remember, honestly. It was circular though. And there was no lights. Those circular shapes on the bottom were not lit up when I saw them. The side surfaces of these things, now the thickness of these triangles, I figured they maybe were like roughly 6 feet in thickness. Like they looked, as I recall, if people were inside that, I imagined like a tall person might have to hunch or might barely fit it. I haven't got a clue. Like I never saw any beings. I never saw any people, no lights, nothing other than just like this steady, what looked like an anti-gravity technology triangle, just barely moving. The side surfaces, I remember, had these sorts of shapes that seemed like maybe like hieroglyphic kind of designs or shapes on the side, but I don't know much about hieroglyphics or what they look like, especially at the time. And I mean, there were shapes, there was some kind of shapes or patterns along the sides. Like, I don't know if it was like decorative or what, I don't know. But it was nothing that I recognized. So I couldn't say what it was. I went home that evening. When they were gone, I just said, well, bye to my girlfriend. I got in my car and I drove to Red Deer. As much as I can remember, I can't remember us saying anything else much to each other than her just walking into her house and me leaving. I think we said bye, not too abnormally. But I journaled about it when I got home. I drew some sketches. I don't know where those sketches and those journal entries are. I really wish I could find them and read them. I've probably lost them in the shuffle of moving homes a few times from then till now. But I do remember describing, and from the experience too, I remember like where we were standing in the city, you don't hear road noise loudly, but you hear ambient traffic in the background. Even though it was like early in the morning, 2 or 2:30, whatever time it was, you can hear like highway noise and just that distant ambience of a big city all around you. But I remember that not only were those triangles like completely silent, but when I journaled, I recalled that I didn't remember hearing the road noise and the ambient noise around me at the time. Almost, maybe in some way similar to when you step into one of those sound booths and the sound gets sucked away so much that it's almost like a different feeling on your ears or something. It just felt like maybe the silence I experienced was almost like this void that absorbed all the sound around it or something. I'm just struggling to describe it, but very simple for sure. Part of it was those things were completely silent. And like, they didn't have any like bob or motion to them other than like the straight line that they were moving, as if it was almost as if somebody had animated them on the computer and done a bad job, like just moved them in the X axes in like a completely linear line and like barely a move that they translated over way too long a period, just like slowly moving, you know? Yeah. So anyways, that happened. And I told a friend of mine, I won't say his name right now. Maybe I'll ask him if he recalls or wants to talk about it if he ever comes on this podcast with me. But I went and I told a close friend of mine at the time the experience. And as I recall, he had a box set of, I think it was the Unsolved Mysteries. And there was a thin sleeve of DVDs in the middle. It was like, I think it was a little purple sleeve that had maybe 6 or 7 DVDs just in that little section. And he explained to me that section specifically was all of the paranormal-ish episodes, unexplained paranormal type episodes. And he said to me, he says, your story is interesting because one of those episodes is all about the triangular UFOs of Edmonton, Alberta. And I was like, I saw one. I saw one, man. Like, that's what I saw. Now, when it happened to me, I wasn't a big guy into UFOs and stuff at that time. I mean, I've gone through a lot in my life from then till now. But at that time, and any UFO stuff I'd ever heard of, they were supposed to be saucer shaped or whatever is what I thought. I'd never heard of anything triangular shaped. But I started, researching here and there and have from then till now. And I started coming across, in some cases, videos that people have claimed to take of these triangular UFOs. And I remember seeing videos where these things are like, in the videos people take, they're way, way up high in the sky, like many thousands of feet up in the sky. So they've got this distant, zoomed in, shaky video, but you can see that they're shaped like a triangle. And those circular shapes, I guess it'd be 4 circular shapes, the big middle one and the little corner, the 3 little corner circles, in some of the videos I've seen are lit up, like as if they're a light or something. And I'm like, I've seen one of those things like up close. Now, I rewatched, maybe a year ago, I rewatched some X-Files. I just felt like rewatching. Original X-Files. Season 1, episode 2 is all about Mulder trying to sneak onto a military base to see these ships that people claim they see. And at the very end of the episode, as a lot of X-File episodes do, Mulder's just about to get caught and he glances up just before and catches a glimpse of the thing he's chasing. And they showed at the end of that episode, second episode, season 1 of X-Files, at the end, they show him catch a glimpse of this thing that darts off really fast. And it's a big anti-gravity triangular shaped craft. And although in the show, it's kind of like a early 80s CGI version of the thing, I'll have to watch it again, because when I saw it, it was just like, oh, like that's the thing I saw. I think the thing I saw had even more detail to it than the CG one that they did, but like extremely similar. I think I recall, I'll have to watch it again. I recall the episode, it almost felt like the triangle they showed was a little bigger than the one that I saw, and it looked thinner than the triangular shape I remember seeing. It's a strange story to tell, because I know a lot of people will hear this and be like, what the hell? I'd probably feel that way had I not freaking seen it in real life. But I'm telling you, I was wide awake. I was on no drugs. I had never touched anything drug related at that point in my life. I saw it as real as I see the friggin' laptop in front of me right now that I'm recording on. I want this podcast, and I just want this content that I'm making to be authentic. Yeah. And it's tough, because people may see this who are clients of mine that I work for. And I've got these fears. I'll describe my fears. One of them is clients might see this and just be like, holy smokes, we've had that person in our house. Right? Or people I want to work with in the future. People in the acting world that I have worked with. I think there's there might be a handful of people I've worked with who already think I'm nuts, because I haven't had the same opinion as them on some things, which have been really charged issues. I don't know that. Long story short, it's for that reason, a little bit of a scary story to tell using my voice and my face and put it out there. But it's up to you to make of it what you make of it. My name is Justin. I grew up in central Alberta, and I saw 3 big, what appeared to be anti-gravity, metallic-looking triangles floating around in Edmonton, Alberta, roughly the year 2008. It was probably really early 2008, if I had to guess, and I might be off as much as 6 months in either direction, but that's what I saw. I hope that at the very least, this has been an interesting episode to listen to. And I'm going to keep talking about what I believe is truthful. And the response has been better than I expected so far. So might as well just have fun with it. I'm pretty committed at this point, huh? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.